I stand before the legislative branch with my proposed health policy to eliminate the use of artificial additives within the foods we consume here in Maryland. The health effects, first and foremost, affect the innocent children. Sensitivities to food allergens have been on the rise and linked to the contribution of hyperactivity, and hyperactivity has been linked to the additives found within the foods consumed. I believe this health matter affects the entire population, not only here in Maryland, but likewise globally. The concerns for mental and physical health impact the children, but also impact everyone, financially through the medical impacts, the future job markets, and the added crime rates. According to Tula Torma, 1994, in the Adverse Effects of Food Additives on Health, a review of the literature with special emphasis on childhood hyperactivity. The expression that food additives are fillers used in the food during the production of foods to give a staple, uniform appearance, to create the body essence within the food structure, to bring the balanced desired look, taste, acidity, and a show quality to any given food product. With a total of 3,794 additives, 63 are used in foods, and 91 as food prep aids to keep the freshness, while the rest are used as cosmetic purposes. On average, around 75% of the American diet consumes 8 to 10 pounds of additives yearly, with the possibility of even more consumed within the poorer minorities. With a scientific study linking the additives and children's hyperactivity together with our mental and physical, psychological issues like attention deficit disorder, ADD. With hyperactivity being linked to including unfocused, anger, rages, excitability, anxiety, uncontrolled impulses, and learning disabilities within the study of children. Using a Connor scale, which is set to identify the elevated mood levels in children through a scale of 0 and 40. The results from Australia showed 9% of the scaled results for boys, 2.4% in girls, whom both scored over 19, while 18% of boys and 5% of girls scored above 15. Then another New Zealand study found that 22% boys and 9% girls scored 15 or more. In an American study, 9% boys and 2% girls reached the limit of 15 or over. In Britain, out of 711 children, 14.6% boys and 5.5% girls scored over 18 or more. All these children were tested for hyperactivity and the use of additives in their consumed foods. Again, Tamar reported that using another diagnostic measure led to the conclusion out of 500 American children to which 20% of the children were found with hyperactivity at the ages of 6 to 9 years. The problem with hyperactivity within the children leads to both mental and physical health issues as the children grow into adulthood. It is shown that those children aged 17 to 25 years still carry their behaviors into their growing adulthood with lack of self-esteem, the inability to concentrate, impaired learning, and immaturity. The issues, both mental and physical, create a health concern for the next generation to come. The lacking physical and mental health consequences form both unstable and unproductive adults that will pass on their habits to their children and put society at risk of economic failure due to the instabilities of concentration, mental alertness, and proper socialization. The health issues go further to complicate the central nervous system, irregular chromosome production, and complicated births. Dr. Benjamin Feingold, an allergy specialist, unionized with the National Institute of Health since 1964, and discovered that additives such as artificial food dyes alone create mental and physical behavioral disorders. With over 1,200 cases, Feingold found that hyperactivity within the children studied proved that the food additives like cellulates, both natural and unnatural, from within the additives had bad reactions to the additives. Cellulates are common in many foods. Foods such as black teas, strawberries, and other natural foods that create their own disease resistance, which is a compound that can be in comparison to aspirin that most humans consume. Dr. Feingold used a correlation between the cellulates and the food dyes to understand the compound behind the cellulates and the use of unnatural additives such as food dyes. In order to understand that correlation between the cellulates and the aspirin-like substances found in foods. There is an artificial additive mimicking aspirin called tartrazine. Using food dyes, Dr. Feingold led the Food and Drug Administration to test 5,000 children between 5 and 12 years on the consumption of food dyes, with a daily intake of 150 grams found from Feingold's study by Swanson. Swanson found that in the support of Feingold's theory, the normal intake of artificial daily dyes averaged between 100 and 150 milligrams. In the FDA study, the daily means for obtaining the artificial dyes were 57.5 milligrams, while the average 90% studied were actually getting 100 to 300 milligrams on a daily basis. This stunning report provided the correlation between the over amount of aspirin-like substances entering the human body on a daily average, which reportedly produced hyperactivity in children while creating mental and psychological health issues into adulthood. Lastly, Tamura showed that the causes and effects from additives range from cosmetics, including dyes such as the tartrazine, used to color soda that is found to contain an aspirin-like product that some children were found to have an allergy sensitivity to, and the aspirin-like substance which causes not only hyperactivity but respiratory illnesses like asthma. With an intolerance to the aspirin like tartrazine, the products set in a group of 122 volunteers were given 50 milligrams of tartrazine and showed the various reactions, resulting in breathing difficulties, lethargic, unusual heart rhythms, and unfocused visions. The dosage of tartrazine is easily to reach with only 2 sodas a day. A double-blind placebo-controlled study with 76 hyperactive children proved that over half, 79% of the children, showed signs of abnormal behaviors. The concerning intolerance to tartrazine causes the body's zinc levels to depreciate, which create the health issues in children. Other additives, such as curcumin found in flour confectionaries and margarine, proved to mutate the cells found in a pig study, which in high doses caused severe thyroid damage. Yellow food coloring, also found in biscuits, causes kidney and adrenal damage in laboratory rats. Carnosian, used in jelly or other preserved food, contains carcinogenic-like substances. Bethaphamelion, Armonith, which has been tested on laboratory rats, proved to create cancer and fetus issues. Erythrocyan, used in candied cherries, acts as a dopamine, and that dopamine substance affects the nerve endings in the lab rat studies. Caramels, which have over 100 varieties used in sauces, sodas, gravies, and more, hold an ammonia-like base that is proved to show convulsions in laboratory studies affecting the white blood cells. Others include benzoates, used in salad dressing, marinades, and more, contributing to hyperactivity and asthma. Sulfites, used in cider, dried fruits, and juices, create mutating cells. Nitrates and nitrites, used in canning products to cure meats, create headaches. And worst of all, they have been linked to the cancer in studies with human and animals. MSG, or monosodium glutamate, used in all types of products, including snacks, canned soups, and more, proved to show symptoms of heart pressure, burning skin sensations, and even proving to show signs of having a heart attack. In a laboratory rat study, the MSG caused brain damage to the early stages of a rat's life. Even saccharin, used in place of sugar, proved to show cancer in laboratory rat settings and mental behavior actions within the tested rats. Aspartame, with its amino acid, shown in laboratory rat tests to produce an over amount of phenylalanine. Within the rats, in turn, the rats' anger rose and violence began to show. The amount of aspartame in the foods consumed by humans resulted in the testing of 276 inmates, who after removal of the aspartame reduced their violent behaviors by 48%. Given the same removal of aspartame to 1,382 incarcerated children, proved a reduction of violent behavior by 25%. An overabundance of artificial or chemistry-made carbohydrates in preschool-age children increased the hyperactivity and aggression in the young children. Also, an overabundance of refined carbohydrates creates psychological issues relevant to panic attacks, agoraphobia, and schizophrenic behaviors within the youth. Once again explaining that with an astonishing 79% of the children tested by Dr. Edgar in a case study showed that more than half the children tested proved an allergy or intolerance to the additives in food, thereby also showing that the children's reactions were also related to cow's milk at 64%, chocolate at 59%, wheat at 49%, oranges at 39%, and more. Nonetheless, with natural production of aspirin-like substances found naturally occurring in products like chocolate or oranges or strawberries, which makes its own selenites during the food growth process, can be stopped, along with the unnatural uses of food additives by diet or elimination of unnecessary food ingredients within the market of edible foods. Eliminating foods from the diet caused improvement in the children's symptoms such as mood, general health and wellness, and respiratory improvements. Children are affected as their own exposure to growth and change leaves them vulnerable to the exposure of extra toxins within the developing body structures. However, this does not mean that the overall effects wear off in time, but instead, like the risk of smoking, alcohol, and drugs, the children's bodies are at risk for serious complications throughout their lives. The risks include mental, social, and cognitive learning difficulties that will impair the children's future through their health issues, creating rising medical costs The inability to socialize as adults will create the psychological barriers that will affect the overall educational and business growth towards a better future society. And then that creates hyperactive adults with more violence or crime, which will put society in harm's way. The health issues will increase the need for more medical expenses. Long-term disabilities through mental and physical reasoning, such as the violence leading to crime, in turn leading to taxpayers' money paying for preventable outcomes through the ending of additives in the food that surface for the majority of humans to eat, thus decreasing the overall downfall of society from creating a detrimental financial downslide well into the generations to come. We need to put an end to the cell mutation, unwanted medical expenses, and the human hands towards creating health risk in humanity. I strongly recommend the removal of needless additives in the foods that humans eat. Nature may provide their own aspirin-like substances to which some humans cannot tolerate, like the strawberries, coffee, non-herb teas. But humans can alter their diets to stay away from the allergic sensitivities. And by keeping the man-made toxin additives out of the food, that those who have allergies to the aspirin-like substances would be able to freely eat of foods that would not cause more harm than overall good. Yet the process of elimination by man will improve the quality of available food choices for those sensitive individuals that take up more than half the population, with numbers growing stronger as more children are affected yearly. Eliminating the unwanted, useless, toxic additives in the human food system consumption will decrease the chances of rising medical costs, future business failures leading to more poverty, social class statuses due to the congenitive disabilities from the exposure of the aspirin-like toxins, which create hyperactivity, thus decreasing the population's ability to socialize with others, hold the strong jobs, and build a healthier financial stability for generations to come. The argument against the banning of additives is the factor that food will spoil without them. However, the ratio of cosmetic applications over the truthful reason for the prevention of spoilage is incredible. With a tiny, small amount of 2% ratio working towards the prevention of spoilage. I believe that through utilitarianism theory, that the overall good for mankind, as well as, since over half the children report some type of health and wellness disadvantage that could affect the rising medical rates to increase. The future instability in adulthood creating a great risk with violence leading to higher crime, more spent tax dollars, and a larger portion of lower income social status cases that will need government aid funding in order to live. And to improve the health and well-being of society in general needs a health policy bill that will truly look out for the physical, psychological, and overall wellness for mankind everywhere. To disregard the truth of the matter that additives really serve a higher function than human puts the values of human life no greater than the 2% of additives truly used within the foods for a good reason. In summary, the long-term cost is the value of human life in both the physical and mental stabilities to ensure that the future society does not fall to the hands of hyperactivity and increased medical costs, job instability, future crime, and financial loss. The overall wellness for all humans, including children, adults, and minorities, will all benefit from the loss of man-made additives within the market of consumed foods. The cost of removing the additives may shorten the lifespan of the food's lifeline, but with the 2% overall additives truly used within the market products, the value of human life is worth more than the 2% food additives over the majority apparent state of products. Children may not even recall that cheese is not truly yellow, that meat is not as red as it appears, that their cereals are loaded with artificial colors to attract children's eyes. However, children should be aware of the truth behind the food that they eat. I propose that the elimination of toxic additives be removed for the safety of the children and everyone consuming the toxic health hazards. The benefits will improve the future stability of all citizens, reduce the asthma rates in children, decline the allergens within the diet of all citizens' lives, reduce the need for unnecessary medical care, reduce the violent rate, improve the education of children, and keep society out of becoming dependent on government tax dollars that come from each and every citizen's hard-working pay. The quality of life over the quantity of product will improve the health and well-being for all people everywhere. Business loss revenues may be impacted slightly, but overall the elimination of additives can also provide more jobs with the transportation of goods, which, although the carbon emissions will be impacted, could also be aided through other eco-friendly business opportunities, such as hybrid vehicles being discounted for tax purposes within the food business industry. Also, job creations working towards solar-generated car batteries for business supply trucks or other eco-friendly environmental opportunities, which will decrease the impact of the environmental emission damage that would be no means to raise an issue in the cost factor against the transportation of more goods. Nonetheless, to remove the additives is to remove a deficit in the medical cost that will decrease the need for more care towards the massive amounts of youth seeking treatment because of their exposure to the sensitivity to the aspirin-like substance. The long-term overall health and wellness of the children, adults, and minorities exposed to the additives create the maximum overall benefit for the entire population. With planning, policy additions for eco-friendly production methods, both business, governmental, and citizens alike will all benefit from the removal of toxic additives within the foods humans consume. For the conservatives and moderate representatives, the overall financial gain in the loss of additives will benefit from the decline in medical expenditure and help stop the rising cost to medical care with the decline in the toxic exposure that is taking over half the children today. Even the liberals will benefit through the eco-friendly behavior that can help both humans and environment alike. Progressives will see a brighter future ahead with the idea of going all natural to improve the quality of life and keep the violence down. In all, there is a need to remove the additives, as 2% of the product's actual base is for preserving the food. In contrast, people everywhere are worth more than 2%. I thank you for your time and consideration for the health proposal to eliminate the additives within the food. Thank you.